Félicitations.
Merci, merci beaucoup.
Je vous ai beaucoup admiré dans Laurence aussi. C'est gentil. Je demanderai aux photographes de
I'd like to ask the photographers to kindly return to their seats. We're going to begin the press conference. Please don't use your flashes during the press conference. Welcome to the press conference for SILS Maria, competing here in Cannes. We have several guests. It's my pleasure to introduce them. I'll start with the far end of the table. Nominated twice, Critics' Prize in Germany. He received the prize for the film Taboo, which was nominated also at various competitions. Lars Eidinger playing the part of Klaus. A wonderful star, an icon of beauty and sophistication, the well-known actress who often comes to Cannes. She got the prize for Best Actress for Certified Copy. She was nominated for an Academy Award for Chocolate and got it for The English Patient. She received a César and several other nominations. She was nominated 4 times for the European Cinema Prize, and she won this honor 3 times. In the part of Maria Enders, we have Juliette Binoche. In 1985, in one of her first parts, Juliette Binoche played for André Téchiné. The co-writer was Olivier Assayas. This is the 4th time he's been competing in Cannes with Clean, Demon Lover, Destinée Sentimentale. His last film in Cannes was Carlos. Olivier Assayas, the scriptwriter and director.
Our next guest's role in Kick-Ass earned her the MTV Prize for Best Breakout Star and the nomination for Best Fight. Kick-Ass 2 garnered her the biggest teen badass award. In the role of Joanne Ellis, please welcome Chloë Grace Moretz.
And finally, Charles Gilibert, producer. He's produced an impressive number of films, several of which have been in Cannes, Certified Copy, and the last film of Olivier Assayas, Après Mai. We're going to start the press conference with the first question here. Good morning, Jean-Marc Lasqualec, Le Dépêche du Midi. A question for Juliette Binoche. In SILS Maria, your character often refers to how her job has evolved compared with when she started out as an actress 20 years earlier. You were at the Cannes Festival in '85 with Rendezvous 29 years ago. You were a very young actress. You were revealed that year, discovered then. How do you view the young actress you were at the time now? Is that festival a happy memory for you? It is indeed. This is a place where we all meet. Thanks to the journalists as well. There's great acknowledgement of the job we do. I live very much in the present. I don't live in the past. I fervently believe in the present. And I think that the cinema makes me call myself into question all the time. Before the camera, I never know how I'm going to really play out my character. For me, I very much live in the present. I like to call this verticality, in fact. You have to have your feet well anchored on the ground, and you have to dream at the same time. Things change, however, things evolve, and we keep meeting new films and new people. That's why the cinema is so magical.
Chloé, could I follow up with 2 questions for you? How were you drawn into the project? What interested you in working in French movie? But also, could you describe your relationship, how you see your older peers? Are you similar to the ruthlessness of your character?
Not quite. Well, obviously, of course, my first attraction to the project was Olivier, because I had seen Carlos a couple of years before, and I totally fell in love with it, and I thought it was such a magnificent film. And obviously, to work with Olivier in not only any project, but specifically a very French project with Juliette would be so special, because I think there's something so much more innovative about French cinema than American cinema, because it's new and it's alive, and there's something that is very raw about it that we can't quite capture, I think, in America yet, and in other forms of film too. So that was my first real attraction to the project, and then I read the script, and I fell in love with the script, and I fell in love with Joanne, and then I fell in love with being able to work with Juliette and Kristen, of course, and everyone in this project. And then on the other question, no, I mean, I definitely don't treat my my peers as I don't know, like as ruthlessly as Joanne does. I was just actually telling Juliette, because I saw the movie yesterday, and I just absolutely fell in love with her character, and she's so magnetic on screen. And I think, like, you look back to, like, Chocolat and, like, The English Patient, and she's always been so magnetic. And I think that there's so much to learn working with women in this business, especially women like Juliette. And I think if anything, I was just incredibly lucky to be a part of this project.
Thank you. We have a question.
Bonjour, Hugues Daillet, Télévision
Hugues Daillet, Belgian Television. I have a question for Juliette Binoche and perhaps Olivier Assayas as well. Juliette Binoche, as Robert Gray reminded us, you are an actress both in Europe and across on the other side of the Atlantic. What about the new upcoming generation competition, the clash between big egos? Hollywood can be very cruel for actresses who are over the age of 40. This has been stated by very many actresses. There are lots of scenes where you're very natural, you're hardly made up at all. You expose yourself, to speak, in a wide range of situations. It's a very cruel job, yet clearly you try to be a very authentic woman, not just a very cosmetic, made-up woman, an artificial person. Of course, the screenplay lends itself to the fact that one is practically bare in terms of who one is, one's identity. Then, of course, you have to see how you're going to be filmed. You have to see how people are going to view you, sense you. What does that mean? That means you have to have tremendous confidence, both in yourself and in the director. We hardly rehearsed with Olivier. We threw ourselves into the scenes. There was hardly any rehearsing. Yuri is there. In fact, he was the director of photography, and he can bear witness to what I'm saying. As actors, we threw ourselves wholeheartedly into these scenes without much rehearsing. We had no safety net, and that's why it was such a wonderful experience. In fact, as we did the various takes, we realized we had to just go into this all together and adjust things as we acted. It's a special way of shooting, obviously. I'm very happy to place myself in the service of the storyline, where I'm privileged to be an actress. And I have to be accountable in a way for what I do. I have to spare no time and effort, do as best as I can. And when the camera enables you to do this, it doesn't cut things up into little bits. It doesn't try to control you. On the contrary, it gives you free free rein to give the best performance possible. It was a magnificent experience to work with Olivier. He's evolved. We met first about 30 years ago. We didn't work together as an actress and director at the time because he was a scriptwriter. But since L'Heure d'été, I've truly seen that his way of shooting is completely relaxed. He just gives free rein to this tremendous happiness involved in creation. And we wanted to do 5, 10 times even better because everything becomes possible. I fully agree with what Juliette has said. It only works if you have actors who are truly generous of themselves. Between a director and an actor, it's really a question of confidence, of trust. And that trust, in fact, marks out the path we'll follow together. If there's full trust, we can reach the end of the journey. We found this way of working together. We don't rehearse. This is what I started to do a little bit in L'Heure d'été, but in particular in Carlos. I think it's a way of involving the actors much more in the actual creation of the film, because I don't want to know beforehand what they're going to do. I want them to follow their first intuition. That's what I want to have filmed.
Good morning, Peter Howell from the Toronto Star newspaper in Canada. A question for Ms. Binoche and also for Ms. Moretz. I was wondering, one of the key lines of the film, I think, is where Chloé's character says, they want what comes next. And I was wondering, from your different perspectives of your career, do you think that's true? Do you think the public only wants the next big thing, or do you think they can appreciate an older actor, some experience? What do you think about that?
To try and find the new is, for me, very important. What is the new to me? Because it's a way of being creative always and not knowing, because repetition is boring to me. So in that, I don't know exactly I haven't seen the film totally done yet, so maybe I'll do better interviews tomorrow, but I think there's always a need of trying to go to the new, you know, that is totally true to me. And that's why after Blue, for example, I read so many scripts about, you know, dead family, a woman surviving without the child, or enough of that, I've done it. And I can go back to it like maybe a few years after, but I'm not thinking of future. I think future is coming to you more than you coming towards future. It's just being at the right place inside of you and trusting, you know, that something will come. Because if you think too much in advance, then it's boring, and also life is not like that. It's not happening like that, to me.
Honestly, I think she said that perfectly. Yeah, I couldn't say anything different.
I can add something. I think that when you are creative, when you are an artist, when you are an actress or a filmmaker, you are totally in the present. But when you are an audience, and I am part of the audience, you want what comes next.
Interesting. Yeah.
Question dans le deuxième rang, oui.
Excuse. No. After.
Oh, excuse me.
It's okay. It's okay. This is Iqbal from Bangladesh, Daily Pratham Alo. My question is to Juliette Binoche. I want to know actually, what do you think that, what is the most important advantage of being an actress and playing an actress?
I don't think there's any advantage, but I know what it is. But at the same time, you have to create a character, you know, for the film. That was funny, very funny. I mean, we had a lot of fun, you know, because we were laughing about what we know, you know, and even though it takes place in a theater, what's the advantage? I don't think I see any of them, but I know what it's all about in a way, so I didn't have to do research and spend 3 months, somewhere. But at the same time, the choice for me, what was funny is to make a moody actress, not sympathetic. She's really angry with the world. The world is not nice to her, and she has to, overcome her emotions. That was fun for me to play, and for Kristen to play the assistant was hilarious. Also, I learned things with her, like, when you come out of a car, for example, you always block the car when it's a big event, because you don't let the person open the door, and so your dress is totally open. So the assistant has to be in front, so you're able, those kind of details she knows more than I do, in a way, because she's really in the world of, paparazzi and all that. But we had a lot of discussions about that. It was fun to do.
And what is the disadvantage, you think, most important disadvantage of being an actress and playing an actress?
What are the advantages?
Disadvantage.
Disadvantage.
Yes.
Disadvantage. It's a lot of stress sometimes.
Like maybe it's you, or is it Maria, or is it you? Yeah, there's a confusion.
That's always a question mark.
Yes.
But a lot of times I've been asked this question for a lot of the characters I've played. So and I remember Abbas Kiarostami said to me, say you're the character, say you're the character. And then in 2 months, he says, so say you're the character, say you're the character. So we never really the character, and we totally the character, because when we're in it, we have to have ourselves believing that we're the characters. So there's a transformation we've got to go into, that you've got to produce something in your body that is allowing this to happen. And that's the magic of acting, that it's something of the incarnation that is very special, because you have to relate your body to what is written, but also what you're feeling, and that all those layers you're putting together are such an excitement for an actor, and that's very an advantage. And the disadvantage is that it's a lot of work.
Okay,
but
thank you.
I love work.
Thank you. Maybe someday you can visit Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you. I know Akram Khan.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Lars, an actor playing Lars. An actor playing an actor playing a director. Have you directed? Was this an opportunity to take revenge on bad directors?
No, I mean, I'm a director by myself, so I just wanted to say that for me, the whole thing was kind of surreal. Like, this event is for me kind of surreal, because I know everything out of the other perspective. I mean, I'm a self-confident actor. I'm working for 18 years, but on the other hand, I mean, actresses like Juliette Binoche, I know them from TV, from movies, just with a frame around them. And suddenly, I'm sitting next to her, I'm playing with her, and sometimes I felt like, I don't know if you know the movie Roger Rabbit, there's this toon world and the real people. And sometimes I felt like I'm into the toon world, which is really weird, And when I was dubbing some scenes and I saw myself coming into a room where Juliette Binoche is sitting, and it's crazy, for me, really. But on the other hand, it was, for me, to get to know her was the best experience I ever had with an actress in my life, because she's, I think, the best partner you can have as an actor. Because usually, I'm used to actresses, famous actresses, they're very concentrated on themselves. And she's very concentrated on the partner, which is really exciting. That was the most satisfying experience for me with an actress.
As an actress?
As an actress. Okay, now it's out. I'm an actress.
Thank you. Brian.
Hi, Brian Johnson from Maclean's magazine in Canada. The Bangladesh question sort of covered what I was going to ask you about, but I do wonder, Juliette, do you get lost in the clouds of so much art life resonance, and that are you looking for that kind of instability as an actor? Do you want to feel sort of not secure, or do you want to feel secure? In other words, as your perspective is, confusing your perspective, does that help?
Because you're saying that I'm looking for insecure parts. Is that what you mean?
I'm just saying when there's confusion between the character and yourself, perhaps as an actress, and are you playing yourself or are you playing somebody else? Does that question come up?
When you have a script, you've got to relate it to yourself, you know. So because you've got to make this bridge happen. But at the same time, the script is always surprising you because I was discovering, you know, what he put into it, and yet I think you were discovering too, you know, as we were going, because like acting, rehearsing the scenes with Kristen, I thought Olivier thought I was gonna just rehearse them like, you know, a cappella, ba 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 ba. I think Olivier didn't expect that I was really gonna play them, and that was a great. And I didn't tell him because I wanted him to discover, you know, as we were going, and the same with Kristen in a way. So because we didn't have any rehearsals, so there was It's not that I'm looking for insecurity. I'm trying to look at each moment of being truthful. And so truth is very insecure and very secure together. You can't place one or the other. But in being, it just happens by itself. And what happens also is that I discover, you know, more and more that when you're with your partner, you're more present, and you make the connection special because of that.
Those scenes that you ran with Kristen, with running the lines of the play, it's like we were watching the play, and I was beginning to wonder, Olivier, did you actually write much more of the play than we saw? I'm thinking, gee, I'd like to see this play now. You know?
Yeah, that's what we discussed.
Everybody asked him to write the rest of the play.
Yeah, that's what we discussed that yesterday. No, I only wrote the bits and pieces in the film, but it's very much inspired by Fassbinder play, Bitter Tears of Petra van Kant. So it's more or less the canvas, really. I mean, I kind of I didn't use it specifically, but I kind of used the situation. So the play does exist.
J'ai une petite question pour Juliette.
I have a question to Juliette Binoche. I'd like to revert to what was said earlier on. I'd like to ask you about the part you are playing in light of the stage you've reached in your career now. Have you reached a sort of a turning point in your career? In fact, your character asks all those questions. Do you as well? Well, imagine if you, for 40 years, you played the part of a 20-year-old. You'd get very bored. Of course. You can't play the same parts all the time. I think the more experience you have, the more you focus on the really important questions. You open up, you mature. You become more skilled, more honed. Think about Glenn Gould. When he played back at the beginning and at the end of his career, he didn't play back the same way. In other words, something happens inside yourself, within yourself. You're more aware of certain things because life shapes you. Fortunately, we do change, we evolve. Don't you think? Max Cinema, I have a question to Mr. Assayas. Your film deals with a timeless issue. Yet the film is located at a very precise time. There are lots of references to time. People play around with computers and certain brands. Was that deliberate? In fact, that's one of the assets, one of the stimulating things when you portray an actress, because an actress has her own life, after all. She she lives in the plays where she stars and in the films, and that person lives via the media too. An actress has three different people, if you like, and you have to cope with these three different identities and go from one to the other. I really like this idea of someone who is actually quite isolated to focus on her work, yet the rest of the world forced her to remain in contact with that modern world. She's like an avatar. Each of the characters is like a kind of an avatar, in fact, in the film. So that is an interesting dimension. I really didn't try to depict the contemporary world, but it is one aspect of the modern world, which I find absolutely riveting, and it fitted in with the characters in the storyline. I have a question for Charles Gilibert. You have an actor who acts at being a director. How do you manage to choose your parts? Well, I'm not an actor at all. Maybe it's just because you watch the film that you see actors all over the place. I just did a short video with Olivier Assayas a couple of years ago. How do you choose your projects? Well, it's basically because of Olivier Assayas. He had this project, he had this initial idea about these female characters who were different ages. The setting was Switzerland, so for me, it was an excellent opportunity. And then, of course, we built up the screenplay. I really feel I provide support more to the director than to a given film. What took you to the Swiss mountains? My two characters wanted to go to a very isolated place to go about their work, so I thought, well, why not the Swiss mountains, the Swiss Alps? And I liked the idea of having a landscape which would become a real character in the film, because, okay, the landscape is inhabited, it's located in the center of Europe. It has been a source of inspiration for many poets, writers, and philosophers. This timeless world, this world that never changes, is in sharp contrast to the characters who are trying to cope with the passing of time. So the landscape in itself has a whole history which is timeless. That's what I liked about the landscape in Sils Maria. It's stunningly beautiful. It's quite unique, in fact. It's pristine nature. Yet it's inhabited by ghosts, ghosts which are invisible. And what is invisible also belongs to the storyline. It is indeed linked to all the very human issues that the characters are grappling with. And then, of course, the characters are waiting for a snake to appear. That creates great mystery. Yes, you have this little meteorological miracle that makes the landscape come alive. It's quite a phenomenon. It's a wonderful phenomenon. When we arrived, actually, it was there, but then the snake disappeared.
Me? Right. So Jason Korsner, UK
Would you mind standing
screen.
up, please, so the camera can see you? And would you mind standing up, sir?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
So it's Jason Korsner from UK Screen in the UK, obviously. For Olivier mainly, France is obviously a country that's very proud of its culture and its language. Why did you choose to make this French film in English?
I chose to make it in English the first reason was because I wanted to it's the way I approached Juliette's character. I was interested in an actress who had like two careers. She like Juliette, meaning someone who came from France and who somehow blossomed, found herself in communicating with the rest of the world, and she became a global star. And also, of course, it allowed me to open the story on a much broader perspective on the media, on the medium. If this was, happening in Paris or in the suburbs of Paris and dealing with the French show business in a way or another, I felt it would be extremely restrictive. I thought there was something, potentially there was something very universal about that story that could be shared in a much broader way. So the English became obvious, and it was the opportunity to work with Chloé and with Kristen and with Lars. They don't speak French.
Thank you. Our question à droite complètement.
Je crois que c'est à moi. Donc, Nicole Gabriel, de Jeune Cinéma.
I have a question for Olivier Assayas. A name was given to the ghost, Zarathustra. And I'd like to talk about the film that you show in your film. Did you intentionally touch on this topic? You show a lot of clouds in your film, for example.
Disons que oui, c'est certain des fantômes.
Yes, of course, there are ghosts.
Disons que, on va dire que
How should I put this? What I was truly interested in was the relationship with the mountains. Okay, Nietzsche spent several summers there. That's very present in the legend, in the story of Sils Maria. But I don't think I really use that idea in the film. Of course, perhaps time is circular, but that is just one of the very abstract dimensions of the film. However, there is this link with the beginning of the cinema, with a time in the history of the cinema where there is a relationship between the way you view nature and the way you view supernatural phenomena. When I discovered Arnold Fang's short film, I was absolutely stunned. I marveled at it. It's much longer than what you see in the film. Not that much longer, because it only lasts 9 minutes. It's a bit like Chinese painting. You see clouds moving, reflections in the water. There was something quite marvelous in this film. And it was stunningly beautiful because it was shot right at the beginning of the cinema. We reconstituted the film bit by bit, practically, and we edited it into our film. We went by helicopter. Arnold Fang, his director of photography, probably had to live in a mountain shelter, spend a lot of time there. Those were the heroic times of the cinema. So, yes, there isn't just Arnold Fang. He made films and used some of these landscapes, but it's difficult to make a film where you talk about a landscape that's been inhabited over time, and inhabited only by good spirits. It's inhabited by both good and evil, things that scare one, things that fascinate one. It's not just a sort of a picture postcard. They're far more complicated forces at work. Thank you.
Nigel Smith with IndieWire. I had a question for Chloe. You made your career with the Kick-Ass films. I was wondering what it was like to kind of mock the genre and the film within the film in this one.
It was fun. It was an interesting kind of juxtaposition to have to be able to kind of make fun of our biggest medium right now, which is the big blockbuster, post-apocalyptic, we all live in space kind of movies. And so I think it's a fun part of the movie too, when you watch this like beautiful masterpiece and then all of a sudden you cut to this like stark, like bad acting, like, aliens, and it's hilarious. And I think that one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the one in the casino with Kristen and Juliette, and it's just hilarious because you have the young assistant going like, it's amazing, it's fun, it's like, it's these amazing like X-Men type movies, and then you have, the really accomplished actors just laughing and being like, are you kidding? Like, they're mutants who don't do anything, and it's just this hilarious juxtaposition, which is exactly where our all of kind of Hollywood is right now, which I think is one of the best parts of the movie, I think. Yeah.
But Chloe, there's also a scene earlier on where Kristen says, does a reading of one of those action films and compares the characters, saying that they're really dealing with similar themes. Do you approach roles differently?
I do agree with that. I am definitely one of the ones who have participated in Hollywood cinema in that sense and done that, and I'm about to be doing that again. And I think the right director and the right actors and the right script can definitely be dissected, and I think a good actor can humanize anything. And I think that if you approach a project the right way and you try and do it not cheesily, and I think that's the whole part about Joanne, is that what Kristen's trying to say about it is the fact that, yes, it is cheesy, yes, they're dealing with like argon and whatever that means and everything else, but she did bring a human side to it, and it did deal with real world problems on a more comedic level, in a sense, almost. So yeah.
Thank you. Et Juliette, pour vous, dans le sens inverse.
And what about you, Juliette? You're on all the screens around the world in lots of blockbusters. Well, I just want to please my son. No, I loved working with Gareth Edwards, who is the director. It's his second film. He's tremendously courageous. He made a first film, and to start with, the three producers were checking everything that was done, and by the end of the film, he's totally free. And for him, it's a wonderful way of launching his career. Thank you very much, and thank you for this film.
Vous avez très bien répondu, excusez-moi. Mais vous êtes tellement beau, ça doit être ça. Non, j'étais convaincu que vous avez joué dans Laurence Anyway. Parce que j'ai eu ça quelque part dans le...
C'est possible parce que tout est marqué partout, sous différentes formes, il n'y a aucun problème.
Excusez-moi. Merci d'avoir réagi comme ça. Mais le film est formidable. Je l'adore. Pour moi aussi. J'ai hâte de le revoir.